last class 100 maybe?
Focus on bringing people in.
Well, we're here now.
Last 20 for the national championship. Yeah, link it up, pound it.
We have pretty solid contact.
How
do I make my legs look bigger?
Stronger for betting shirts.
Get excited.
A lot of minutes by a lot of times.
Eyes up, chins up.
And much faster.
Keeping the team together.
Yeehaw. Are
You guys are not the same height.
It was pretty good, and it was pretty hard.
Big congrats to the guys.
Actually, it was so hard.
Yep, headed back to Melbs.
It's gonna be so much better.
Hey everybody, I'm your host, Christian Dossett, back here with another episode of the Redliner Experience, back for another year. Nope, you're Christian Dossett.
No, I'm Ben Komita.
Then who's Christian Dossett? That's all I want to know.
I don't know. I heard he's taking a fifth year.
Fifth year because he changed majors a while back and just...
Yeah, and then did lousy in a few classes.
You know what? Sometimes it is what it is.
Sometimes it is what it is. Nevertheless, I'm not rowing anymore. So what am I doing here?
You are honorary coach, boat boy 2.0, upgraded video, just everything.
I guess that is what I'm doing. And I guess that gives me a little more responsibility to do the podcast this year.
I mean, personally, I am a fan of the podcast, so I would look forward to that. I'm really happy that I get to be here today.
I think it's cool. I think I'm really happy to finally have you on. Because I know you've been, in my back pocket, itching at me.
Oh, of course.
To get you back on here.
So since we're both excited, why don't we get the podcast started?
I think we can do that. Let's give a little update. It's September 12th, 2020. So if you're ever, if you're out there in the ether listening to that, this is where we're planted in the United States. Things are a bit weird right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're in the library in the podcast studio. I had to walk into the library, show my ID, wear a mask, of course, with this corona. So
yeah, and now these microphones have masks. Very cool.
So very sanitized.
Kudos to Martin Gallagher.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean we're in this spaceship of a library right now. It's pretty neat. I got the boys playlist going on behind me here.
Just some good memories of the team, even before I was on the team.
Just some good stuff. I think I was 18 right there. All right. Anyway, now I'm not 18 anymore. Now I'm here with you. Now you're a part of the roster, and I'm not, frankly. So I want to delve into your brain today about the team, about what you see going forward, about how much the team means to you, about how much it doesn't mean, about how you couldn't care less, man.
If I talk about that, then this podcast is over.
All right, let's get into it. Your name is Benjamin. What's your middle name?
Lee.
Benjamin Lee Komita.
Yes, sir.
And why do people out there call you Ken Bomita?
Ken Bomita just kind of started a thing back in high school, actually. Me and my friends on the swim team, we would just switch the first and last letters, or the first letters of our first and last name, so it just kind of stuck, and Ken Bomita has a nice ring to it, so just kind of went with it.
Wow, that is the most clever thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
How would you say my name? Would you do me the pleasure?
Oh, on the spot. I'd say Distrin Cosset.
Wow.
That's what it would be.
I was really curious if you were going to clump together those consonants or not.
Yeah, you got to make an executive decision sometimes, and I just went for it.
All right. Bravo. So, Benjamin Lee Komita, your hometown, let me see if I get this right. Is it Chalfont?
Chalfont, Pennsylvania.
Chalfont. D. I mixed up my consonants.
That's all good.
Chalfont, Pennsylvania. Can you explain a little bit what that place is like?
So, I don't know. Not really a very exciting town. Just a lot of houses, and it's not really a downtown. Kind of spread out. I live on the very end of where my school district is. So,
would you say you're in the exurbs? Between?
Yeah, absolutely. Across across the street from where I live is a different school, and then right up the road is a different school. So I live like right in the corner, but yeah, it's pretty spread out. Like, I guess since I'm talking about school, like I could live half an hour from some of the people I went to high school with. So
Right on. Oh, you're a Coxing. I didn't
I
mention
am a
that once,
Coxswain.
and I want that to get planted in the
Okay,
ears
yes.
of like anybody who's listening who doesn't know that
Yeah.
you're a Coxing. So we'll get more into rowing in a second.
Yeah.
I want to build up your background first. All
sure
right.
thing.
So you mentioned swimming.
Yep.
Was it swimming and diving or just swimming?
It was a swim and dive team, but I only swam.
Okay, so you swam for how many years?
I swam competitively for 13 years.
Oh wow. And you ended your senior year of high school?
Yep.
And what brought you to Florida Tech?
So in 7th grade, I was doing a research project on a future job I would want to do, and I discovered naval architecture. And I always like had an interest in science and math. And as I continued to like go through my schooling and like look into colleges and stuff like that, like naval architecture, and then eventually as I looked into ocean engineering, which is my major here at Florida Tech now, that's what brought me here. And like I looked at colleges with the major of ocean engineering because I knew that's what I wanted to do. So that's how I ended up here.
Right. Okay, so the first time you crossed paths with anybody on the team, it was due to a rooming situation, right?
So in like the summer before my freshman year, I had like I wasn't gonna be able to swim on the team here. There was no walk-on availability, so I kind of said to myself, all right, what else am I gonna do? I don't want to just sit in my room all day. So I was looking up different sports, and I contacted Jim, and I said, hey, like I've never rowed before, but I'm interested in trying it out. And he said, yeah, like when you get here, you can do like a 2-week trial and see how you like it. So like in freshman orientation, I tried to like find some of the other freshman guy rowers. And yeah, I remember there was like an inflatable obstacle course, and I met Zap, Bryce, Aaron, and Cole. And I remember saying to myself, like, man, these guys have the weirdest names ever. Like, because Zap said, oh yeah, I'm Zap like electricity, and Bryce was, oh, I'm Bryce, but everybody calls me Brick. And I was like, oh gosh, these guys are so weird.
Yeah, still pretty weird.
Yep.
So you didn't live with them freshman year?
Not the first semester, and then I moved in with them the second semester of freshman year.
All right. Was that like an official move or like a non-official, like I'm going to sleep on your couch because I like it better here?
Well, one of the roommates moved out, and
the door was still open.
the door was kind of open after we unlocked it with a coat hanger,
Oh, that's right.
but we don't need to discuss that. But yeah, it was an unofficial official move in.
All right. Right on. Moving forward, you when you joined the team in those first 2 weeks, what was your impression?
My impression was that, man, these guys are big and I am small, and everyone knows what they're doing and I have no idea what I'm doing. That was my initial impression.
All right, and that was how long was that like your strongest impression of the team?
Honestly, like only for the first couple days of practice. I know like my first day I rode on the launch for a while and just watched. Like I had never watched an 8 rowing before, so I didn't like I'd watched videos online, but like I didn't know what to expect, so I just sat and watched. And honestly, that I'm sure we're going to talk about it later, but that like the word watching like sets the precedent for the rest of like my last couple years. But yeah, I watched practice and then got the opportunity to sit in the boat, and like I didn't really know what I was doing, but everybody was super helpful and nice and kind and didn't get frustrated with me not knowing what I was doing and was willing to teach me and help me learn, which like that was just super encouraging for me, because as a novice, not even just a freshman, like I needed all the help I could get, and like I really wanted to learn, so it was super helpful for me to be able to learn from guys who had 10 years of rowing experience.
Very cool. That's good to hear. Now, I'm going to try to go back about 10 years into my life and remember some of the small things about joining rowing and see if we can relate to them there. Did you get your hands torn up? when you started?
Oh, absolutely. I could probably scroll back in my phone right now and find a picture that I took of like blisters on all the knuckles on my hands and then all the bottom knuckles on my fingers too.
Do you remember what you were thinking about when you like started getting that? Did you expect it?
When my hands like first ripped apart, it was like, I don't know, like from a combination of erging and using
Yours?
yeah, I don't know why I'm blanking now. Coxing, I didn't forget anything. But yeah, of like rowing in the boat on the water, like a combination of that ripped my hands up. And then it made me feel like, okay, like now I'm a real rower. Like I got my hands dirty, literally, and now I'm a real rower. So it's like my baptism into the religion of rowing.
Baptism by bloody blisters. I think that's such a cool process to go through. And then to get the calluses and then to one day have a rainy day and they all rip off again.
Oh, yeah.
It's great.
Well, that was my bad habit. I would always rip my calluses off, so they were always like raw.
I didn't learn not to do that for so many years. I'm surprised I still have them.
Yeah.
But all right. So also when you were entering the sport,
Mm-hmm.
you're starting to erg, you're starting to row, you're introducing new muscles to the exercise. How was your body adjusting?
So obviously, like, I wasn't unathletic. Like, I swam for 13 years. I was in really good shape. But, like, with swimming, I had a lot more upper body strength that I didn't necessarily need in rowing anymore. So, like, as I, like, progressed and, like, rowed more and stuff like that, like, my leg strength definitely improved and my upper body strength definitely decreased because I was getting functional muscles that I was using for my sport, so.
Right. Now, how would you compare and contrast the sport? Let's try it on like a few different levels.
Yeah.
So between swimming and rowing, how would you compare the training physically?
Physically, it's obviously different. Like, the fatigue you get from a swim practice versus a rowing practice is different, but the pain level, I'd say, was pretty comparable. So, like, I guess I was prepared for that.
Right. And then psychologically,
I think erging is harder psychologically because especially when you're doing like a steady state piece and just sitting on the erg for half an hour at a time and then getting off for like 2 minutes and then hopping back on, like that's so boring. That sucks.
right? You're just
And like it took me a while to figure out like, okay, what am I going to do to pass the time and like how am I going to make this better for myself and like what am I going to be thinking about and like how can I stay focused on my task at hand?
and what were your solutions? Did you come to any?
Well, I obviously like I listen to music. I'll like sometimes watch a TV show, but something that I do is like something that I did, I guess now was like pick different checkpoints. So like say we're doing 15 minutes, I'd like alternate, like I'd be like, okay, just get through the first 5 minutes. And then I'd say like, all right, there's however many meters left that I'm expected to do. Like I'll get to that next meter checkpoint and I'll alternate between like a checkpoint of time and a checkpoint of meters. Like if I like, I'm like a super math oriented person. So if I can like keep it number based, then like that works for me.
All right, I think that's a really cool thing to know. That's something that I used to do, totally forgot about. But I think it's strong. I think it's a strong thing because not only because you're a number-oriented person, but because it's an example of visualizing.
Yeah.
And if you can see yourself becoming like you're all you're doing is focusing on getting to like one spot, and it's something very achievable.
Yeah.
Right. You're not saying like,
Yeah, it was
oh,
like
I'm focusing on the next like 10,000. Like
No,
I'll
no,
focus
it's
on the
like-
next 500.
exactly.
All right. Very cool. Take note.
Yeah, and I like to pick round numbers too when I'm doing it. So
Round.
like like okay, like let me get through the next, like I'm at like 1270 meters right now. Let me get to 2K.
All right.
And then I'm saying like at 2K I've gone for 7 minutes and 40 seconds. Let me get to the 10-minute mark.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
So, did you have the opportunity to race as a rower?
Yeah, freshman year, head of the South, I raced in the, I guess I raced in the Club 4. I sat bow seat. So that went pretty well. That was my first collegiate rowing race, so that was exciting. And then end of freshman year, I raced in the Champ 4 at Sierras, and we made it to the grand final, so that was exciting. It was our best race was a semifinal race where we had to finish in top 2 in order to advance to grand finals, and with like 800 meters left, we were down, and Lubo, our stroke seat, was just like, let's go, and we just sprinted from 800 meters left. And I know, like, you guys were in the 2V, you were in the hotel watching it, and you guys were all going crazy watching us make a comeback. And then I don't remember what the other boat was, but the boat we were racing, I think it was Purdue or something like that. Like, they caught a crab, and like we were able to sneak in there, so that was super exciting for me.
Yeah, that's real cool. Then you obviously ended up transitioning to Coxing.
Yeah, so my transition to Coxing was not anticipated. Like, I was enjoying rowing. I think that, personally, I think I was doing pretty well. Like, yeah, I was one of the slowest on the team, but, like, with it less than a year under my belt, like, I was learning. I think I was, like, improving technically in the boat and things like that. And then, like, towards the end of the year, like, my back started bothering me a lot, my lower back, and then I went home for the summer, and my back kept getting worse and worse, and I finally went to the chiropractor, and he said, oh, you might, like, I told him, like, I'm a rower. He's like, yeah, you might just, like, have some, like, swollen discs or something like that. And then my back kept getting worse. I went to the trainer here, and they were like, oh, you should go see our team doctor, and the team doctor said, go get an MRI, and so I went and got an MRI, and I got my results back, and I had herniated discs in my back, 2 of them. So I said, well, that's not great. It's a little bit more serious of an injury than I thought I had. And so I took the fall season off, and I said I was going to, like, touch on the word watching. Like, I got to go to, I went to practice every day and just watched the guys on the boat and listened to coach and watched guys and said, oh, I can, like, see that they're doing this wrong, or, like, oh, comparing these 2 guys, like, you're doing this really well. Like, it helped me learn about the sport so much. Like, I was like a year into my rowing career right now. Like, it was super, super good for me to be able to watch and learn and listen and just become more ingrained in the sport and understand the terminology and understand, like, little nuances of the stroke that I wouldn't have picked up before if I didn't have that opportunity to just sit and watch and observe.
Right.
So, I was resting in the fall in the hopes to come back. Like, I hadn't been cleared by the trainer to row again, but I still really wanted to. And then it didn't get better. And over winter break, I was just thinking and sitting and processing. And I decided that when I got back in the fall, I would approach Jim and say, like, hey, I'm super interested in Coxing. Like, I still want to contribute to the team. I still want to be a part of the team. It's not viable for me to injure myself pretty seriously for the rest of my life. Like, but I want to contribute to the team in this way. And he said, like, I didn't want to be the one to give the idea, but, like, I think that's a great idea. I think you'd be a great fit for what we need. So that was super encouraging to me that he had already had that idea. So I weighed like 168 pounds at the time, and Jim was like, all right. Yeah, well, because I hadn't been, that was the heaviest I'd ever weighed in my life. And, like, I hadn't been able to exercise very much because of my back.
I mean, of course, I wouldn't expect you to, like, weigh a whole lot less.
Yeah.
For rowing.
Yeah. I was trying to, like, hover around that 160 weight for rowing, just be able to cut for lightweight if I needed to. But yeah, I was like 168, and he said, all right, cut to 140. So I said, all right, I can do that. So I started cutting weight, and I think the first practice that I went to after I talked to him, like, I ended up coxing an 8. Like, the first coxing experience I ever had was coxing an 8, and honestly, like,
Bro, I think you were in my boat.
I think I was too. I think you were stroking.
Yeah.
And, like, that was really nerve-wracking, actually. An 8 is an expensive piece.
Look at this next question I had. Read what I underlined.
He underlined, was it a little nerve-wracking? Yeah, I'd say so. But, yeah, I was terrified. I didn't want to crash. I didn't want to disappoint anyone. I didn't want to be the newbie coxswain that didn't know what they were doing and was bad at steering. And obviously I was expecting that to happen. But, yeah, I got in an 8, and I got off the water and asked Jim, like, hey, how'd I do? He's like, I thought you did great. Like, you were confident. in your speech. You knew what words to say. Obviously, like, steering takes practice, but yeah, so that was super encouraging for me. And from that point on, like, I ended up just coxing, and I had, like, as the spring season progressed, like, I had the opportunity to take over as coxswain of the 2V, and like Jaden, who graduated last year, one of your closest friends, like, I learned a lot from him. I asked him a lot of questions, so that was super good for me, and I loved the experience of getting to learn something new. Like, it's like freshman year, like, learning to row, like, that was super exciting for me. I'd swam for 13 years, and then I was finally, like, getting to do something new with my life. And now, like, okay, like, I'm finding my niche in that new aspect, and, like, learning to cox. And, like, I watched so many videos. Like, I asked people for feedback of what they wanted to hear out of a coxswain, and I asked people for videos from their high school teams or old teams of, like, what they thought was a really good coxswain recording. And, like, every practice I asked for feedback, because I knew that I wasn't going to be automatically good. Like, I wanted to learn, and I wanted to, like, be an effective part of the team. So
It is so cool. It has been awesome to watch you, like, as a student of the sport. You have really, I don't want to use the word blossom for some reason, but you have.
yeah,
And it's been great to watch you go from this stranger of the sport to this guy who's fumbling around with an oar and doing pretty well with it, and then to come upon such a setback like your herniated discs,
yeah,
and take it so stoically, and just think, like, all right, what can I do now? And to have, like, a set of values that's like, you know what? I don't just value being the guy, like, trying to join this team as a rower. Like,
yeah.
I value being a part of this team. I value these guys. I value what they're about. Maybe I'm putting words in your mouth.
No, I'm not, absolutely.
And I want to be a part of that still. And there's nothing better than a good coxswain. and you were spot on with Jim's reaction to you in that practice, and to have the confidence that you did, whether you were honestly being a bullshit artist or not. It is so valuable when you step into that boat to speak with confidence.
Yeah.
And it was obvious that when you were coming back to practice each day, you were bringing something new into the boat.
Yeah.
And that's so valuable to the guys on the team, to feel like, you know, not only are they training upwards of 20 hours a week and coming back each day trying to put a brick on top of a brick,
Yeah.
but to know that the guy that's telling them what to do at the end of the boat is doing the same thing. So cool.
And, like, it was especially important to me to, like, continue to be a student of the sport, because obviously all the guys on the team knew that I was new to the sport in general. Like, okay, I'm 2 years in now. But it was super important to me to just demonstrate that I was learning, and that I wanted to continue to learn from them, from external sources, from coaches, just because, like, I wanted to be able to be a good coxswain and, like, help the team in that way, and didn't want to hold them back in all their training and all their hard work. Didn't want me to be the reason that they didn't succeed. And that's, like, kind of where my mindset was with it.
So let's talk about building confidence starting to cox.
Yeah.
Let's explore the aspects both of building confidence by just doing it, and building confidence by studying. And let's explore those two and see, like, which helps more, how they relate to each other, and if there's anything else that you think helped build your confidence as a coxswain.
Yeah, so I think the first thing was, like, going in with the mindset that I have no idea what I'm doing, so I need to learn every single thing. So I, like, wasn't afraid to ask questions, especially of my stroke seat. Like a lot of practices ended up being Euless as my stroke seat, and he was so helpful. Like I asked him for feedback all the time, and he would like whisper things for me to say to the rest of the boat, like, oh, like he can feel the rush of everyone behind him, and he can hear when the blades aren't catching at the same time. Like I can see it visually, but like guys have so much experience and they just know like that things that I don't know. So then when I get that feedback, like it lets me connect the visual cues to the feeling and the sounds, and just like having that connection, was a huge confidence booster for me, just knowing that, okay, guys are willing to like give me their feedback and they're trusting me with this knowledge, and they're trusting me that I'm going to say the right things. And like, as I learned the right things to say, like then my stroke seat would less and less have to tell me what to say, because like as I grew more confident that I was saying the right thing and that I was continuing to improve, like it was great each practice just to know that like, okay, I am improving. And then like, I guess that is kind of combining both of the aspects, but one of the other things was like asking for feedback from coaches after practice, because they can see from afar like how the rowers are responding, and like coach would ask me after practice, like, okay, what went well today? Like what didn't go well? And then it like made me happy when we would go into the next day of practice, and like the feedback that I gave, that was something that we worked on. Like it showed that my opinions and my thoughts about like the day were respected.
Right. Well, I mean, you serve as a cortex.
Yeah.
You know, your nerve endings extend outward from the boat, and I mean, not only from your seat to the guys that are rowing, but to coach as well. Your mediation.
Yeah.
Liaison. Yeah. So you had the pleasure of learning in an 8.
Mm-hmm.
When did you start coxing fours?
So like my first couple practices I did an 8, or I coxed an 8, and then
And could you explain how they're different?
Yeah.
For
So
listeners?
like for an 8, I'm sitting in front of all the guys, like they can all see me and I'm facing them. And then, so I did that for the first couple practices, and then I went to coxing fours, and that's a bow loaded four, so I'm laying down in the front, I can't see anything. And that was actually another super helpful part of my development, because it forced me to have to listen. Like I couldn't see anything. Like it forced me to have to listen and feel and understand things that needed to be worked on, and understanding the purpose of drills that we were working on, so that I could give feedback to the rowers even though I couldn't see them. So then I'd say, I don't know, like next 2 or 3 weeks, I'd say 2 weeks, like I coxed fours. And then one day at practice, Jim was just like, all right, Ben, like you're the 2V coxswain now, like this is your boat. So that was so encouraging to me to know that like I earned something, I guess. Like I wasn't just given something like, okay, you're a fresh coxswain, like here, take the reins of this boat. Like I had to earn my spot, and I proved that through like all the things that I was learning and the feedback that I was getting, like that I did earn something, and like that made me super proud of myself.
Proud of you too, man. All right. So I asked one of those questions because I'm imagining that when I post this, we can send it to new coxswains, some walk-ons, and they can get a little more insight. So your time in the 4, it was challenging because it eliminated, your sense of sight.
Yeah.
It was helpful because, that like, what's that adage? Like, the blind man is like super sense and other things.
Yeah. Like it forced me to rely on my feeling in the boat, and it forced me to rely on my hearing.
All right. So could you explain boat feeling? What is boat feel?
So boat feeling, like for me, the way I understand it and like interpret it, is that like it's what I'm feeling, the connection between the rowers in the water. Like the boat and the oar is forming that connection between the rowers and the water. And ideally we like don't want to feel any jostling and jumping. And when you get a nice clean catch, the blade's back into the water and you have full oar face full of water, like you're going to have that full connection the whole time. And I'm not going to move around at all. Like I could just sit there, and if I'm a four, like lay down and fall asleep. Like I'm not going to feel anything. And like understanding where I'm feeling a jolt in the stroke, and like, okay, yeah, it's super easy to feel like when the boat is jumping, but like I had to learn what it meant when the boat was jumping at the catch and when the boat was jumping at the finish, and when guys weren't matching up, and like what the different jumps and bumps and jostles like meant. So that like played into like connecting my on the water feel versus me being a student.
All right, so a little visualization for that to like help compare what it means to run smooth and not jump. If you ever filled like a 2-liter circular, like cylindrical soda bottle and rolled it or seen it roll, if it's rolling smooth and you're like tapping it along as it goes, it'll go smooth. If you're not timing it right, or if you let it roll by itself, maybe the water ends up crashing back on itself.
Yeah, and
it wobbles back and forth. Yeah. And that's the same thing that the boat does in a race. Like we can kind of see it here on the TV behind us. And then, could. There we go. Boat's moving a little back and forth.
But yeah, learning and feeling that in the 4, and then like moving over into the 8 where I could see. And then that allowed me to know like, okay, like I'm feeling this jump at the catch. Like guys aren't matching up at the catch then. Like I can feel it, and then I can look out and say like, okay, who can I give feedback to that they're not matching up? Because like something I really appreciate about the guys on the team is that everyone is willing to like have constructive criticism given to them.
Right.
It's not even criticism, I'd say. It's just like what we can do better to match up and have one boat rather than 8 rowers.
Yeah, I mean it's necessary when you're in a sport that requires that you do the same motion perfectly over and over and over again. And granted, you're not going to do it perfectly. Nobody does a perfect stroke. What you do is you aim close to it. It's like the founding fathers, like a more perfect union, not a perfect union, but a more perfect union. And that's what we're trying to do on the boat every day, is to have a more perfect stroke.
Yeah.
And the criticism is so valuable. And I loved when I would like hear my name called.
Yeah.
And even when I hated it, I loved it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, cool. Still cares about how I row. Still cares about making the boat go faster. Call me out whenever you want.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, like I don't want to mess up, but then I appreciate that like my position on the team is valued enough that like coaches or other people want me to get better.
Yeah. Yeah. And
because it's like it's making yourself better, but then it's also making the team as a whole better. Because when you row better, the 7 other guys that are with you row better.
It sets a tone.
Yeah.
As well. Is there any specific thing, any one thing we can walk through? Multiple things? Any things that you wish you were told when you joined or when you started Coxing that you weren't?
Honestly, no. And I'm going to take some of the credit for that. Like, I really went out of my way to ask questions and figure out things that I wanted to know and find out the answer to that. Like, I don't think that people would have offered the amount of information that they did without me prompting and asking. So, like, yeah, I'm going to take some of the credit for that because, like, I wanted to get better, like we talked about, like with rowing or with coxing. Like, I don't think that there's things that I missed out on, like how I could have been better, like starting out, because, like, I'm talking about myself like I'm this experienced coxswain now. Like, had like 3 months before we went home last spring. But yeah, like I attribute all the information that I did get from other people, which I appreciated greatly, I attribute that to like me being able to ask questions and like being willing to learn.
That's great advice. So
Yeah, so if novice coxswains are watching this or novice rowers, ask lots of questions.
Indeed. All right. A more difficult question.
Okay.
How could you relate coxing and swimming?
Well, like I talked about, like before I started coxing, like getting to watch and learn, and like a lot of this same thing with swimming, like not necessarily for practice, but for a swim meet, like you race 4 times and then you get to watch other people's races the whole time that you're not swimming, and like getting to watch and get that feedback and seeing how coaches are watching and seeing how they respond, like that lets me know like, okay, they're watching my race the same way, and like this is how they're responding and this is their critiques of other people's strokes. How can I apply that to myself? So like me getting to watch practices and listening to Jaden coxing the boat and like different things that he said, and like I think you could probably agree, like I mimic the way I cox a lot after like the things that he says.
Still like an artist.
Of course. Like if someone's successful and good at what they do, like I'm obviously gonna want to copy them. Like
Don't reinvent the wheel.
yeah, like obviously I have my own touches and flares on coxing.
I mean, he has his touches from Aaron.
Yeah,
For him.
Yeah.
And they didn't even get along.
Yeah, but like relating coxing and swimming, like it's different. Swimming, you're competing, you're racing against the person next to you, and you're getting instant feedback on that. And coxing is more of a, you're trying to squeeze all that effort out of the guys you're in charge of. And yeah, like I'm in charge and I take responsibility for how a race goes, because like we can have a race plan and it's important for me to execute that plan and understand how we need to respond to other boats, and like kind of weighing external versus internal variables. Like how are we rowing on the boat? Like what is something specific that we need to be working on right now so that we can do better and we can go faster? And also like, okay, what are the other boats doing right now? Like we need to be responding to them. Like I need to be attentive of that, but making sure that my rowers are attentive of themselves.
Got it.
I don't want them to worry about other boats.
Right. Yeah, that's a good move. We're one of our walk-on coxswains, Justin Woodyard.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Woodyard, I'm going to shout you out for a second here. He now knows the story about Aaron Evans crashing into the manatee sign.
I will say that I've heard that story probably 15 times.
How does that story make you feel when you hear it?
Oh, well, that definitely played in. I heard that story just as like a novice rower before I started coxing. Like that add into.
Okay, let me cut it in here.
You can tell the story.
Aaron Evans was a great coxswain. All right, I don't like, I know that's the only story we tell, but you don't tell stories of like how good people do every day.
Yeah, you tell the funny ones.
So yes, this is hilarious. But when you think of Aaron, of course you can think of the story. But I recall him being an excellent coxswain, and I don't want to cloud his name through it. But yeah, we were sprinting hard, coming back in. Both of the coxswains were locking eyes with each other. It was Aaron and Corinne. I happened to be in Aaron's boat. I think I was in 2-seat. I think I had Billy behind me. No, 2 seats behind me because we were both rowing port. So maybe I was in 3. We were in a starboard rig boat, hauling butt, and I think we were upwards of a 36, and the riggers got sheared, and they landed in our backs.
Because what'd they get sheared off by?
By the manatee sign.
Yeah. You guys ran right into it.
Yeah. So anyway, it was a little bruising. Had some what do you call it, fiberglass or whatever, tweezed it on my back later by Tasha.
But yeah, that running into the manatee sign, it feels like super easy. Like if you if you guys looked out on the river, like you would be able to see these big signs just of warning slow wake manatee zone, and it looks super easy to just don't run into it. But when you're focusing on 30 other things, sometimes that can just get lost in the horizon, and you don't see where this sky and the water meet, and the manatee sign just blends in. So yeah, that played into my nerves. Running into a manatee sign, there's so many crab pots out there and all the buoys. Like I try my best to not run into any of them. So, but yeah, that played into the nerves. I don't want to have another story that gets told for the next 10 years about me destroying all the riggers on the boat.
Good idea. All right, I wanna try something kind of abstract, kind of fun.
Okay.
Maybe.
See how I do.
I want you to try to explore the process of your focus, like the evolution of your focus in the boat as a coxswain over time. What things were you originally thinking about? How has your consciousness in the boat evolved to what it is today?
So first practice, I was so concerned about steering the boat straight. And like, I definitely did not do that. Like, it's super hard to like make the smallest movements when you're steering. Like, obviously you want to like overcorrect and things like that. And I'm sure like everyone would say like, oh yeah, you were surfing around all over the place. But before practice, I asked some of the guys like, okay, what should I focus on? And they were like, just talk. Don't let there be dead noise. So like I was trying to do that, even if I like said the same thing over and over again 30 times, like
we're doing the same thing over and over.
Exactly. So like the beginning of my focus was focused on two things: talking, and not really, doesn't matter what I said, and steering. And then like I found it hard to look down at the speed coach and see what our rate was while talking, while steering. Like I did not know how to multitask very well in the beginning. And then like as I continued to get more practice, like steering became easier, and like I don't really have to touch the steering at all now. Like the boat steers itself. And like now I can, like I said, like I learned about the boat and like what the feedback, the feeling was giving to me, and like how I can convert that into words and like give the guys. So like steering, that was off the table. Like that wasn't a focus for me anymore. And then more like giving individual feedback to guys throughout practice, like that's a main focus of mine. And then also like utilizing the technology that I have in like speed coach, knowing stroke rate and splits and how much distance we've gone and things like that. Like now that's second nature to me. I can just like glance down and know what we're doing while still continuing to watch our boat and other boats at practice.
Now, something I'm curious about with stroke rate, I know that rowers, especially strokes, I don't know if like down the rest of the boat they have the feel, but if you have experienced stroke in the boat, you kind of have this internal metronome, and you can kind of guess what rate you're going at. And maybe that sounded kind of stupid because you might know from the org too, but do you feel like you have a metronome without looking at the stroke coach sitting in the coxswain seat?
I can definitely, not necessarily like pinpointing a specific rate that we're going at, but I can definitely feel like over time, if we like increase rate or decrease rate, like I can feel that like really significantly. And I can say like in my head, like, okay, like I can feel we picked it up. Like I bet we've gone up 2 beats now. And I look down and we've gone up like 2.5 beats. Like maybe I don't necessarily know that we're at a 21.5 right now, but like I like have a pretty good like comparison of where we were to where we are and like how much we've changed. And that also like took learning and like knowing, like feeling each catch, and like it's like combining like your feeling and your like understanding of the actual stroke of rowing. Like that's how I can respond to the stroke rates.
Okay, cool. When you're sitting there in the coxswain seat, stroke rate goes up.
Yeah.
You go faster. Puddles have less distance.
Yeah.
What does this mean? When do you avoid it? Why would you avoid it? When would you not avoid it?
So obviously when your stroke rate's increasing, you're going to pick up speed because you're getting more strokes in a less amount of time. Like you're getting that power transfer between your legs and the water more often. But one, you're tiring yourself out more, you're taking more strokes, you're exerting more energy, but your efficiency in that stroke is dropping. Like, you're not letting the boat do its work. You're not letting the boat run underneath you, and you're not allowing the boat to move. Like, you're cutting off that movement and that speed before it can even run its full course. So, like, as one of the main things we're trying to find is that efficiency. And, like, as we increase rate, how are we transferring that over to, like, how hard we're pressing? And we want to continue to have our puddles spaced out evenly, like, between, and trying to have our puddles clear the stern. Like, I don't want to see puddles on top of each other, and, like, I don't want to see people putting their oar blades into another person's puddle. And, like, yeah, for listeners who have never rowed before, sorry, getting a little technical here, but I think it's super interesting. But yeah, so learning about puddle spacing and, like, knowing what that meant, and, like, how that means we're not doing necessarily so well if we're getting close together, or our rates going up and our speed staying the same. Like, that's a big red flag. Like, if our rate is increasing and we're staying the same speed or going slower, like, yeah, guys, like, we need to focus on stay long, crush through the drive, get those blades in the water, and really transfer the power that you do have over to the water.
What makes you stay now?
What made me stay now is, first and foremost, the guys on the team. Like, I talked about that earlier. Like, I wanted to be a contributing member of the team still, and that is because, like, I have such a respect for the other members that, like, I see how much they contribute and, like, how hard they work, that I want to do the same thing. And, like, my best friends at this school, like, are because of the rowing team, and, like, yeah, like, I get along with everyone great. And so, like, that makes me stay. And also just getting to do something new and, like, getting to compete. And yeah, I'm not physically competing now, but, like, my contributions also go into how fast we go in a race. Like, that is super cool to know that directly what I'm doing is contributing to how well the 8 other guys that I'm with are doing. And, like, that competitive drive that I have in myself and my competitive nature, like, that keeps me around to want to continue to be on a sports team and be on an athletics team.
Very cool. Now, I just want to say, let's see. So you stay first and foremost for the guys.
Yeah.
For their, like, what? For their what?
Just for the relationships I formed and the friendships I formed, like, apart from rowing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, like, I met everybody because I came to practice and talked. But now, like, I live with you, and I live with Zap and Baylor and Becca on the women's rowing team. Like, you get, like, I have relationships outside of rowing with you, and, like, continuing to have those relationships with everyone, like, that then brings me back to, okay, where was the epicenter of this relationship? And that, like, I attribute that to rowing. Like, I wouldn't have met anybody if it wasn't for me saying, okay, what's another sport I can do when I'm in college? Like, let me walk onto the rowing team.
Right. Let's try to enclose the atmosphere. Let's try to examine the atmosphere of the rowing team. Because, like, we're, like, weirdos. We're, like, there's, like, some cool guys on this team. Yeah. And I don't mean to, like, make it sound like high school, but it's, like, it feels like a pretty inclusive environment. Like, there's no, like, type to be a rower. But if there is a type, like, what are the values that make somebody excel on the team?
The main values, I would say, is first your drive and desire to work hard. And I guess, like, Florida Tech rowing is pretty successful. Like, no one would be here if they didn't have that drive. So, like, just looking at the team as a whole, American, international student, like, recruited, walk on, anything, like, everybody has that drive and that hunger, like, and in addition to that, like, just a willingness to put it all out there, I guess, like a willingness to go hard every single practice and work hard on an erg piece, work hard on a lift. Like, we rowed together, 8 people in a boat, 8 rowers, 1 coxswain, 9 people, and we continue to do that every practice. Like, go on the erg, row together on the rowing machine, go to a lift together as a team. Like, everyone's struggling together. So, like, that sense of togetherness combined with the desire to work hard and get better, like, those values are, like, unmatched. And especially with rowers, like, anybody who goes to the gym knows, like, oh man, if I hop on the rowing machine, like, this is gonna be really hard. Like, we sweat, our blood, sweat, and tears from practice. Like, that's gonna bring us closer together. So, like, that sense of togetherness and everybody's willingness to just work together, like, that brings about a real sense of unity. And I think the rowing team, more than any other team that I've been on before, is unified. And like you said, like, everyone has different personalities, and international students, guys from Florida, guys from around the country,
different cultures.
Yeah, like, but we have the uncanny ability to work together and speak the language of rowing rather than whatever your native language is.
Yeah, it's like a mini Olympics every day.
Yeah.
It is a super cool testament to, like, what sport can do for humans. I'm getting chills just thinking about it, man. It's so cool.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, I don't know if I've told this story before on here, but nevertheless, when I joined the team freshman year, I had been, like, sculling mostly throughout high school. I'd done some sweeping, done well in sweeping, but it was, like, on a state level. And in high school rowing, state level, especially in Florida, isn't, like, too nuts. But anyway, I get thrown into this 4 freshman year. Jaden, my roommate and on Cox, and he was coxing the boat. We were beginning selection process for the Charles, for the collegiate 4. And we go out onto the water, out of the anchorage, so we're on the Indian River, and the weather's kind of bad, and I had hardly ever swept before. And the 3 other guys that I was with were Jugas, Gilvanus, and Jaime. So I got these 2. I've got these 3 world-class rowers.
European world-class top athletes who had rowed a lot of their lives. And we're out in, like, kind of bad conditions, and I'm this, like, I was a competitive athlete, but I was a pretty passive guy. Yeah. So this passive guy getting cussed at in, like, 3 different languages on how I should be rowing better. Yeah. And granted, they were extremely helpful in developing my rowing. Like, I definitely owe it to that for like shaping me to be a competent rower for the next 4 years. Yeah. So, if you guys hear this, thank you. Seriously, thank you once again. So we're out there rowing the 4. I think that I couldn't be any worse. And there are practices like that, but they're often not every day. And if they're more than one day, there may be a week. Yeah. All right. It gets better. So if you're on the team right now, if you're having a hard time erging, whatever, it gets better. And let me just say that, like, bad practices,
they're the best ones.
They're the best ones. You learn the most from it. You learn about resiliency. You know, okay, that sucked. Why? Why did it suck? What did I do wrong? Individually, it's like an individual examination. Like, what did I do wrong that made that practice bad for everybody else? And how can I be better tomorrow?
One of my favorite quotes of all time. love it. The first time I heard it, it was in an interview of Washington's head coach, Michael. Oh wow, I forgot his name.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was maybe upon their first year, like losing to Cal in the recent history. After their streak, he said, "Never waste a good crisis."
Yeah.
Never waste a good crisis. And I love it. And the same thing comes from, you know who Jocko Willink is?
Yeah.
He's got this great video where he's just talking on his podcast, and he's like, I'm going to do my best Jocko impression right now. He's like, you miss your alarm? Good. You get no car accident? Good. Did you get a divorce? Did your wife take all your money? Good. Did you just run that M-Pocker into a manatee sign? Good. You're never going to do it again.
Exactly. But it's true. Like, yeah, we can laugh at it, but it's true. Like, don't waste a bad experience, because once you waste it, then it becomes something bad.
Yeah, my high school coach had this saying. He said, good and bad experiences are good experiences.
Yeah.
Remember that.
It's simple, but it's true.
All right. Let's see. What aspect of your position do you cherish, if you feel like you haven't expressed that?
I mean, I feel like I touched on it a little bit, but like just being able to still be a contributing member despite the fact that, yeah, I got injured and like I'm not able to go crush an oar with 7 other guys, but yeah, now I can use something that I think I'm getting pretty good at, like using my abilities. Like I think I have some pretty good leadership abilities, and like I'm good at talking and I'm good at communicating. Like all of those plays into being a coxswain. So like getting to use the things that I'm good at to contribute, like that's a cool experience for me.
All right. Thank you. I think I'm pretty much done picking your brain.
Yeah.
I think we covered some like really great technical stuff,
Absolutely.
and your narrative really helped to explore some of those things that I haven't like really thought of in a while.
Yeah.
Now, no longer as my guest, more as my friend and the coxswain of the Florida Tech men's crew. Let's just do a little housekeeping.
Sure.
All right.
If you're listening to this, thank you for making it this far.
Yeah. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. I think it's funny that the wolf-sized pickles.
I know. I noticed that. One of Christian's other podcasts.
Yeah, from years ago. Wow, years ago. That's nuts.
Yeah, you're old.
Ooh. All right. Very cool. I should be better at this by now then.
It's all right.
Well, if I kept doing it. All right. Housekeeping. We were speaking with Jim tomorrow. Tomorrow is yesterday. We were speaking with Jim yesterday. See, now that we're out of the logistical stuff, I don't have to talk clearly.
Exactly.
Reset. Yesterday morning, we were speaking with Jim about how practices was going to keep going, you know, when we're getting in boats and stuff.
Yeah.
And he is kind of under the impression that, you know, we have to keep the numbers down of COVID cases.
Yep.
Not just on campus, but in the city and in the community.
Yeah.
And if that's done, if they keep going down, I think.
Yeah, I think it was like if they like stay at this level or continue to fall every day, then we're able to get down to the boathouse and get on the water.
Yeah, and then it's just predicting, like, you know, once that lifts, if that's conducive or not to, like, to what we're trying to do. I don't know. The whole thing's messy, and I don't pretend to understand.
I don't need to know what the decision process is, because yeah, I don't envy that position at all to have to like make decisions about health and safety. But all I know is I just want to get out on the water, if I'm being honest. Like, I found myself over the whole quarantine period or whatever, like watching old videos of rowing. Like, man, I just like, I want to be out on the water. Like, there's no better feeling. Like, obviously I like the water. I'm majoring in ocean engineering. Like,
Yeah.
so, but I swam. Like, I got a thing for water.
All right, more housekeeping. Let's explain to those not on the team what practices are kind of looking right now. Maybe not exactly what we're doing as training, but how they're working.
Yeah. So, this week, Tuesday was our first day of practice. Well, I guess Wednesday was our first day of practice, and we were split into two groups, the on-campus group and the off-campus group. And right now we're doing 6:30 practices, just getting on the erg, getting on the bike. Unfortunately, we have to wear masks while we're exercising, which, if I'm being honest, I don't mind it that much.
Yeah.
I don't think it's too bad. Jim gave us these nice Florida Tech rowing masks. I got mine over there. They're pretty easy to breathe in, so works out pretty well.
Or something that kind of cracks me up. I'll preface this with I'm an idiot. I don't know how the masks work. I don't know what works better than what. Right? The idea of a breathable mask.
I know. It's like, honestly, maybe I'll get yelled at for this, but like, as long as I can breathe in it and it fulfills a requirement of me wearing a mask, like, I'm happy with that. I'm not too nervous about catching corona.
Yeah.
Maybe that's insensitive, but
No.
I don't care.
Otherwise, we're following the rules.
Yep. We're keeping everything above the boards. Going to practice, keeping our numbers, practice groups small. We get to start lifting next week, which is exciting. I guess this coming week.
Do you know how that's going to work?
I have no idea. I think
Right.
we're still split into off-campus and on-campus groups, and then
There's
we
like
have to
tape
wear
on the
masks.
floor in there.
Yeah,
Like
and-
boxes you got to stay in.
Yeah, and we have to wipe down all our equipment and stuff like that. So,
Right.
you know what? It's the new normal. We're figuring it out one day at a time. I'm sure things will continue changing, but I'm just happy we get to be here on campus, go to classes, practice with the guys on the team. Like, it's all exciting. It's all happy. Got to find the silver lining in anything.
Very stoic, Ben. How are your classes going? What are those looking like?
Classes are going fine. It's kind of nice to have the option, I want to do a class online every once in a while, that I have that option if I get busy or something like that. But yeah, I learn a lot better in an in-person class. I am in my junior year, finishing up junior year this semester, technically, I guess. I'm on track to graduate a semester early, which is nice for me. Got a little bit ahead of the game, so can save myself some money, ideally go into my graduate degree early. So, you know what? I have 19 credits. Things are going well. I'm not bored.
Good. What are some work and study habits that you would recommend that you feel like have been strong influencers of positive behavior?
I'm not going to lie, I do pretty well in school, but I would not take all of my study habits. I'm a pretty big procrastinator, but I still get all my work done, and this year I've been a lot more organized, but I want to stay on top of things. I'm an engineering student. A lot of my classes are math-based, so like practice problems. Like, that's the only way I can understand math, and like prioritizing, like, okay, something I understand, just because I have a test coming up doesn't mean I need to practice it so much. Like, if I understand it, then I'm not going to like spend as much time on it. Like, I need to prioritize things that are important to me, classes that are important to me, classes that are important to my future. So like, yeah, I'm taking a lot of credits, taking a lot of classes, but like learning how to balance it all. That's like the biggest thing. And like, I can't say like one thing that I do is going to work for everybody, because like everybody learns in different styles. But yeah, trying to take good notes, pay attention.
What does your organization look like then?
Well, I go to class with a notebook for that class, folder. It used to be a folder, but now no one's passing out papers. don't want to spread any diseases, but yeah, I take notes on a notebook and then I write in my planner what I have to do for that day, and I like the satisfaction of getting to cross things out. I'm a big fan of doing things on paper. I don't type my notes. I don't write on an iPad. Do it all pen and paper, but I like the physical feeling of taking notes or whatever. It just helps me learn the material better.
All right. And schedule organization. How do you organize your schedule? If you don't like using paper, do you not use like scheduling apps? And
No, yeah, I have a planner. I have my day-to-day, and then I have a calendar view where I write down each thing I need to do that day and cross it off when I finish. So like I look back, I might have things that I didn't cross off from the previous day that I know that I need to get done, and then I have my calendar view where I can like look forward and see like, all right, this is what's coming up. This is what I have to be cautious about. Like know that like I want to have a little bit lighter load here because I got a bunch of tests coming up or something like that. But yeah, I'm pretty old fashioned in that way, I guess.
all right. And even though you're a Coxing, you still work out.
I do. Yeah, so I said earlier how I was 168 pounds in January when I came back, and Jim said, all right, cut to 140, and I did that. That was pretty easy for me, if I'm being honest. I adopted a keto diet. I don't care if you do that or not. Just it worked for me. Forced me to eat less calories. I learned a lot about like weight management and like being in a caloric deficit and things like that. Like I worked out a lot. So like I'd say when I left in March to start quarantine, I weighed about like 142 pounds. Then I got home and I worked out just like every day. I would go in my basement, turn the heat on, put a sweatshirt on. I had a stationary bike down there, and I would bike for like an hour. And then I would do 100 sit-ups and 100 push-ups a day. And that was super good. And I lost a bunch more weight that way. Jim wanted me to get to 140, and at one point I was 128 pounds. And then I said, all right, now I can just maintain. Like it's super easy. It's a lot easier for me to maintain weight rather than like putting weight back on and losing it again. So yeah, now I work out a bunch because I have not been blessed with a fast metabolism. So I need to watch what I eat, work out a lot. So I fit in my workouts with like around my schedule. Right now it's easy because we're just like on the rowing machines in the gym. Like I can bike while everyone's doing that. But once we get on the water practice, like everyone gets a workout while they're rowing, and I'm just sitting there getting towed around.
Yeah.
So like I need to find some time to, once that starts, I'm sure I'll have a little bit of a schedule change and find some time to add in those workouts.
That's rough. I always feel for you.
It is what it is. Part of the
I'll be
grind.
going through the same thing now.
Yeah,
On the
true.
launch. How's your sleep these days?
Sleep's fine.
You ever had a problem with sleep?
No, not really.
Get to bed early, or
I fall asleep pretty easily. When I want to go to bed, it takes me like 2 minutes to fall asleep, and then I'm good.
how much sleep do you feel like you need to be like operating on every cylinder?
6 hours.
All right.
I feel good around 6 hours. I'd say that's what I get every night, if I'm being honest.
Okay, cool.
Oh yeah.
If you had to fight one wolf-sized pickle or 100 pickle-sized wolves, what would you fight?
Oh, I'd fight 100 pickle-sized wolves.
And why?
Just kick it or something like that. Like just swipe your hand away. They're not going to kill me. What are they going to do? This is tapping back into Christian Dossett and Jace Petrowski's podcast where they adopted this question.
Yeah. All right. I think that about wraps it up for now. Do
Yeah,
you have anything else to say?
Final parting words. I just wanted to say thank you for having me on today. For everyone listening, I hope you enjoyed my ramblings. I really have enjoyed my time getting to be a part of Florida Tech men's crew, and I am really looking forward to having that continue. Thank you for the opportunities, and thank you for listening. And that's just it. What is it? Say hi to my mom. Mom, if you're watching this, I'm sure you're watching it with Dad sitting next to you. Hello. I'll also give a shout out to Casey. That's my girlfriend.
All right.
There we go.
Very cool. I'll say hi to my mom, too.
All right. There
Miss
we
you.
go.
All right.